Hey there, it's Sharon. We are on day 6 of this 10-part series. Every day I want to share with you a new tip that will help you move through the very difficult process of divorce, but do it in a more loving and a more peaceful way. So we are on day 6, and this is a big one. I think I sort of eased you into it with the first several of these tips. This one is a big one, and it's a difficult one to understand, both for yourself and other people around you may not totally understand it. And here's the tip. You can still love him. Sounds crazy, right? You can choose to have love for someone and still make the decision to not be in your most intimate relationship with them. You see, most people just automatically assume that he's got to be a bad guy. He needs to deserve this. I have tons of evidence to support why I no longer want to be in this marriage. And that I have to hate him in order to leave him. He has to be a jerk. He has to be an ass. No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. No one has to be the villain here. And the only thing that would keep you from being loving or thinking loving thoughts towards your soon-to-be ex are your judgments and the thoughts that you're creating in your mind about whether or not he deserves your love, which is a whole nother tip for a whole nother day about people's deservability of love, which is ridiculous. So you're the only thing that is stopping you from being loving through this process. And so here's what that can look like. You can be loving towards him even when he's not being loving towards you. So let's say, let me give you an example. Let's say he really tries to stir something up. You don't have to take the bait. You could just say, look, I have no interest in arguing with you. I don't want to hate you. And so this is going to be one of the things that we're going to have to address in mediation, because clearly you and I can't come to agreement on this particular topic. Right? Just because someone isn't being nice to you, isn't being loving towards you, doesn't mean you can't be loving towards them. And here's why you'd want to do that. Because you're probably thinking, well, if someone's being rude to me, I don't want to be loving towards them. Here's why you do. You do. And it's not because it's morally right or any of that stuff. It's because loving always feels better than hating, than judging, than criticizing, than being rude. When you love, so not love being pointed at you, like when people point love at me, then I'll point my love at them. That is a flawed way of thinking, and it's one of the many issues inside most of our relationships today, is this idea of I'm going to give you love when you're loving towards me, and I'm going to withhold love when I view your actions as not loving. Right? It's a flawed premise. So love because it feels good to love. Love because you want to feel good and you care about how you feel. Love because you want to keep your peace in the midst of this. This is when you go back to one of those old tips about what do you know to be true? If I know I want to have a good relationship with the father of my children, or I need to reach for that mantra that I created during this time, you can use that in the spirit of this. You can be loving even when he doesn't deserve it, even when you don't feel like doing it, but you can do it because you care about how you feel as you move through a very difficult process. You can also think loving thoughts about him. So this isn't all about your actions or your words when you engage with your soon-to-be ex. This is also just about maybe when you're talking to other people about him or about what's going on inside of the divorce, or just when you're thinking about him. And you're probably thinking to yourself, wait, I'm not going to think about him. He's my soon-to-be ex. Why would I think about him? No, you are going to think about him. But usually when you think about him, I bet you feel some negative emotion, anger or worry, a little self-righteousness maybe, or fear. You might feel fear. I mean, look at it like this. I have a client going through this right now. That's why I'm thinking about it. If you are thinking to yourself, he's going to be so broken. He's never going to recover. He may never trust or love someone again. That's not going to feel good for you to think those thoughts. And you're not doing him any favors. Even if you never say the words, these are just thoughts in your mind. You're not actually doing him any favors. But when you think the thoughts, you know what? I know he's struggling. And I know this is hard. But we've both been very resilient in our lives. And we do hard things all the time. We can do hard. He'll move through this, and we will both come out the other side of this feeling better. I remember I used to remind myself as I was going through my divorce that my husband genuinely deserved someone who could love him exactly as he was. I couldn't be that person. And don't you know, like now he's remarried, he's with someone who probably thinks he is the cat's meow, no changes needed. He probably walks on water with her. That's how I choose to think about it. I bet he's really happy. And even though I've never said those words directly to him, I'm going to tell you something. Number one, it feels good for me to think those thoughts. And number two, I just feel like energetically, it helps. So the tip here is you can choose to love. It's not a default answer that you have to hate him. You can choose to love and be loving towards your soon-to-be ex. And if you are brave enough to do that, even though other people outside of you will be very confused by that, right? Because everybody thinks you have to hate him in order to leave the relationship. You can love him and choose to not be in this kind of relationship with him. And truly, if you have kids together, you want both of you to be your best, most loving selves. You want to see in your thoughts, in your mind, in your words, and in your actions, to see your partner really excelling, and yourself too. So that is tip number 6. I hope you were able to wrap your mind around it. Like I said, it might confuse lots of people, and that's okay, because remember, they don't have to understand. That was tip number 1, I believe. All right, I've still got 4 more tips to share with you over the next 4 days, and I hope you'll join me in my Undoing I Do webinar series that's coming up really soon. I'll see you there.